Developed by 4 Quarters Studio and published by Devolver Digital, currently out on Steam, the Epic Game Store, and GOG. This indie game attempts to put a new spin on the roguelike genre, but does it do enough to keep things fresh, or will the endless looping make you want to quit? Well, it's time to find out. The world has been destroyed by a mysterious being, and you are its sole survivor. In the darkness, there is only a path you remember. You learn that the world is forming from your memories and what you remember of it. From forests to villages, all these things come back when your character remembers it, and it's up to you to restore the world to how it was before and find out who or what destroyed it. The story is unique and keeps things interesting for the most part, and because you know as much as your character, you feel like you are unraveling this mystery together with him. It's intriguing enough to make you want to keep playing to reveal more of the story. I love the music in Loop Hero, it's so relaxing, and I found myself vibing to it even after many hours in. For a game about loops, you would think the music would grow stale quickly, but I'm glad it doesn't. It definitely adds to the 16-bit aesthetic and the feeling of nostalgia. And I've heard it so many times by now I hear it even when I'm not playing, and that's totally okay with me. Pixel art games has had a resurgence lately, playing on people's nostalgia. The 16-bit aesthetic here is beautiful, but some of the enemy designs were bland while some were great, and I found it a little inconsistent. There's not much graphical settings as well. You can only remove the CRT filter and change the font style, though the dyslexia-friendly fonts were a nice touch, and more games should look into doing that as well. Now a bit of a disclaimer before I get into gameplay. I don't like card games. Nothing wrong with them, but I just don't gravitate towards them. The only card game I actually enjoyed in recent memory was Gwent, so I was kinda hesitant to play Loop Hero at first when I heard they had some elements borrowed from card games. Since the story plays out by your character remembering things from the destroyed world, his memory comes in the form of cards. Before every round, you can create your deck from cards that you've unlocked. These cards represent things your hero has remembered and can bring into the world. How it's implemented is unique, and you function more like a dungeon master at a D&D game, adding in cards to the loop to make your hero go through. You can put up spiders on a tile so that your hero will have to face them every time he walks past it, or use some cards to remove enemies from the loop, making it easier. You, as the player, has some control over what happens in your loop, which makes it so addicting, even hours in. Where you place your cards also affect how they react with one another, and things like putting 9 mountain or rock cards together can create a larger mountain that provides a buff to your hero but also causes a harpy to spawn, which creates this risk versus reward system that you get to control, giving the player an agency not usually found in most games. Cards aren't the only aspect of the game. There's a lot of loot to be found here as well, with you getting either a card or some form of gear from slain enemies, giving your character some progression with each kill. Enemies get harder every time your character completes a loop, and they also spawn with each new day. The hero can also level up after gaining enough experience from killing foes, which allows you to unlock traits that can really give him a much needed power boost. Now, when you die in Loop Hero, you start from scratch again, meaning you're back at Loop 1, with all your gear lost. If you are slain, you get to keep only 30% of the supplies you've collected on your run. You can retreat at any time outside of combat, but you only keep 60%, and if you retreat when your hero is at camp, then you get to keep all your supplies. This makes knowing when to quit part of the game as well, as greedy players can find themselves losing a lot of supplies and time wasted on a run due to a sudden death. These supplies are needed back at your base. Yes, Loop Hero has base building in it as well, and it isn't just cosmetic. Tiles you build can unlock new cards to be added to your deck, and even different classes that you can use in the loops. It's not overly complicated as well, and you don't have to spend much time here if you don't want to. It's just a nice change of pace that affects the core game in a positive way. Loop Hero is RNG heavy, so some players may not like it. I for one have super bad luck when it comes to RNG, so it affected the enjoyment I got out of it. Loot and cards are all RNG, so a bad run could see you without a weapon even when you're in your 3rd or 4th loot, while your enemies have gotten stronger. Some cards like the Blood Grove can only be used if there's an adjacent grove. So if you don't have a grove, well, then you can just hold onto the Blood Grove card for the next 10 minutes or until the game feels like it's had its way with you for long enough. It's this heavy reliance on RNG that also takes away from the game, because when it works and things are going well, it's great. But ultimately, it comes down to your luck, so your mileage may vary. It also plays like an idle game. Your character automatically walks and you just press the right click to pause and unpause it. He attacks enemies automatically as well. You can also play this whole game with just a mouse, as I found my keyboard going to sleep many times while playing this. This could be a good or bad point depending on the kind of games you enjoy, as it can feel rather passive, but also you can just chill and use your phone at the same time or do whatever. Loop Hero is a fun game that I found myself enjoying way more than I thought I'd be. Getting to be the dungeon master in the loop was great when the RNG was going my way, but it feels like these two elements were in conflict with each other at times and holding this game back from being truly great. But I like the direction that 4 Quarters Studio took, and the implementation of other genres blended rather well here. It's games like these that keep the industry moving forward. You don't have to try and reinvent the wheel, and sometimes just adding more wheels is good enough. If you were like me and were wondering whether to pick this up, I'd suggest you give this game a try, because there's definitely a lot of fun to be had here.